Welkom bij weer een nieuwe aflevering van de wekelijkse podcast van Paul de Vries. In de podcast komt het laatste nieuws uit de online automotive aan bod. Met ook interessante tips en tricks uit binnen- en buitenland. Pauls missie? De online automotive beter maken. Dat doet hij met onder andere de volgende partners: Marktplaats, tweedehands.be, you name it, Calldrip, Used Car Controller en Active Lease.
Welkom allemaal bij een nieuwe aflevering van onze podcast om de online automotive beter te maken. Deze week hebben we als gast Allistair Carmichael uit de UK, uit Engeland, uit Manchester. En mijn collega bij Calldrip, namelijk de Vice President van Calldrip UK en International Markets en de leider in de automotive retail. Allistair, thank you so much for coming here to Ede to visit our studio as well and to bringing your knowledge and content to the Netherlands.
You're welcome, Paul. It's great to be here and spend time with you in the market.
Great. Can you explain our audience who you are and what your vision is for, in our sense, our purpose, our mission to make the online automotive better? What do you do that in the UK?
Sure. Thanks, Paul. So I've been in the industry for 30 years and literally ran a large number of automotive retail operations. And over the last few years, my work has been helping retailers, helping vehicle manufacturers, OEMs, and a whole number of different types of automotive businesses to improve both their presence online, but more importantly than that, to take the inquiries and the leads that they're getting and help them succeed better in converting those leads into the correct outcome, which is to drive appointments and conversions in order to sell more vehicles.
Yeah, but what did you do in the past? Because you're working at eBay as well, but you did a lot of other things as well. Can you talk about your career until the Calldrip era?
Sure. So I started really early on, having left school and been to college and all of those things, continuing through further education, and ended up working in a motor dealership in the workshop on the tools.
Okay.
Throughout my entire life, I'd always dreamed of being a Formula One mechanic.
Yeah.
And it became very clear very, very quickly at the point of learning my trade that two things were significant. The first one was that I didn't like getting my hands dirty.
No.
And the second one was that I broke more things than I actually repaired.
Mm-hmm.
On the basis that the dealership in which I was working felt that I was quite a cheeky character and was able to talk a lot. In fact, I never shut up. Uh-huh. They decided to put me in service reception. Mm-hmm. And from service reception, I progressed into sales, trainee sales, back into after sales, sales controller, sales manager, and ultimately dealer principal. So I spent probably about 20 to 25 years working within a retail environment. And then after that period, I spent quite a bit of time working and building my own enterprise, working with people like eBay, for example, where I looked after enterprise and OEM relationships for them and did quite a bit of work across a number of EU markets. And also spent some time working with OEMs rolling out sales improvement programs and coaching programs for various vehicle manufacturers across the EU.
But that is what you did in the past. But when you look at the past about the sales processes, did it change? Did we improve?
So it's interesting, really. I think we all understand and we all appreciate that the consumer journey has changed significantly in terms of the amount of information they have at their fingertips, the tools and the platforms they engage with in order to learn more about the vehicle they're inquiring on or have a desire to buy. Ultimately, although those digital environments may have changed and the tools and devices that people are using have changed, ultimately what still happens today is that the outcome of all that ends up resulting in either a customer walk-in, an inbound telephone call, or a digital inquiry has been submitted. And that hasn't changed all the way back to when I was retailing on the showroom floor. So
for the last 20 years, for example.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And a certain amount of what we preach, a certain amount of what we coach, is the same things that have been in the business for the last 20, 30 years. What we are finding, though, today is that the customers are much more informed, have much more knowledge, and are much more assertive about the vehicles they're selecting and shortlisting that they're interested in buying. Their ability to get to that information quicker, faster, and 24 hours a day means that the research is to such an extent that the overall number of visits to the dealer has dropped significantly, which means that your digital presence has to be exceptional. And once that lead has been submitted and the inquiry is received, you have to deliver a market-leading guest experience in order to ensure you move the customer from undecided to decided to make sure they buy from you and not buy from the competition.
And is that a game changed a lot for the last 3-4 years?
I think there are some people in, particularly in the UK market, there are some market leaders. There are some people that really get it. Some of those people have got industry leaders who may not be from an automotive background and they've experienced that elsewhere, maybe in the hotel industry or something like that. And we've got a number of clients that we work with who've really began to understand it and learn how to win in that space. However, there are a significant number of automotive dealers today that we work with who still have a more traditional approach to handling those inquiries, and
less meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely. And those people are really missing out on opportunities.
And we see from the Dutch market, the UK market as a copy, actually a European copy of the US market in sense of the way sales processes are handled, marketing is done, financing options are provided. What is in your sense, in your vision, the big difference between the Dutch market, for example, and the UK market? And where is the UK market more advanced?
That's a really good question, and I think there's probably a couple of key areas. I think the UK generally, as a country, I think the population is potentially online more than possibly the Dutch market in terms of their search for product and their engagement with brands and with retailing businesses.
You think so?
I think potentially, if you look at the volumes of leads that are generated and you look at the type of engagement, I think there potentially maybe more online transactions take place. There could potentially be more traffic. I also believe that, and whether this is aligning the UK more with our friends in the US or not, will remain to be seen. But there is a big shift in the UK also to look at pushing forward with online finance, where more and more people in the UK will look to reserve and actually transact potentially and go as far down the finance route as they possibly can in the digital environment, and potentially look at making the handover experience more of a lifestyle experience, and everything else has already been pre-done.
Online.
Absolutely.
And is the financing done by the dealers or by the independents? Financing companies?
It's a combination of both. The franchise motor dealers will always have a very, very close relationship with the finance provision from the OEM.
Yeah, of course.
And also as a backup, they would have second string providers of finance. What we are finding in the UK is that there are a number of technology businesses that are producing software and integration options where they are driving that pre-qualification and pre-credit scoring, or what we call soft credit scoring of the consumer. And these businesses are obviously very heavily regulated in terms of compliance, but they're really pushing and investing hard to make the environment as easy for the consumer as possible, to go as far down the funnel as they can, so that ultimately the decision is almost made and it's just a question of clicking and buying.
And is that because they want to go down to the funnel as much as possible because they don't trust the dealer to make that process happen, or is it the benefit of the consumer?
I think it's a number of reasons, to be fair. I think it's providing a great service to the consumer, and it's the way consumers are looking to spend, and it mirrors consumer buying habits. Also, I think it's them providing a good service for the dealer in order to help push the consumer as far through the funnel as possible, and give the dealer the best possible chance of converting the opportunity.
Yeah. Is the private lease market as well a big in the UK, that you can buy a car for 300, 400, including the taxation, insurance, etc.?
Absolutely, and what we've seen, and it's probably the same in the Dutch market, I don't know, but vehicles have never been so cheap to own and run as they are today. Yep. And one of the things that we have seen because of the finance offers that have been out there, and because of the product quality, is that for relatively inexpensive money, it's been able to give access to the consumer to some really quite premium brands. So BMW, Mercedes, Audi are brands that people would find themselves easily being able to afford as a monthly payment today, rather than say maybe 10 or 20 years ago where it would have been what you would consider to be a less premium brand.
Of course. And what about the portal market in the UK? Because in the past, we look at the UK market, especially to Auto Trader, as the big Goliath, which controls the whole market in the UK, and was not considered that fancy or innovated. How's the market now in the portal landscape in the UK?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and when we're working with our customers and we deliver our insights, analytics and management information as to their performance across all of the leads they're receiving, we usually always ask them in that meeting which place they consider to get most of their leads from, and which portal they consider to be the one that provides the most valuable leads. Usually today, people will always say Auto Trader. And that's for a couple of reasons, really. First of all, they have been dominant in the market, and they have been the industry leader for such a long period of time, and still are the industry leader today and respected as such. Also, being a bit cheeky, they're also the most expensive portal to advertise on, which is understandable because they are the market leader. Having said that, there's a couple of things I'd say which I think are really quite relevant. The first one is there are other portals in the market and other classifieds that are A, valuable, and B, starting to gain real traction in the market. And secondly...
Which ones?
I'd say probably Car Gurus would be one of the ones that's really quite aggressive in the market. And you also have to appreciate that Motors, as a portal and a platform, was recently bought by eBay Classifieds Group. So that now means that Motors is part of eBay Motors, Gumtree, and Motors. So if as a classifieds group they can come to market with a really strong proposition across those three platforms, they could do very, very well indeed. But one of the points I would make is that you cannot underestimate the importance of your own website. And for me, within a dealer environment, without doubt, the number one lead generator and the number one call to action should be the dealer's website. If that isn't the case, then usually that means there's a problem.
In the sense that it should be on the website, or their website, or the call to action from the portals to the dealer website, you mean?
I would say I'm talking about the dealer's website. If you're in an environment where, from a dealer's website, there could be a number of calls to action. Those calls to action could either be on the homepage. Those calls to action could be in search results page within SRP, or alternatively, there should be high engagement, good levels of dwell time, and good calls to action on the vehicle display page. So you've got to look at multiple areas of your website and multiple touch points and opportunities. So those calls to action, they could be either click to call, they could be an inbound phone call, they could be live chat, or whatever the case may be, SMS. Without a doubt, you've got to take a view across your entire website presence. But I would say that the bottom line is that across all of those calls to action, the key driver in your business, the number one platform that should generate the most inquiries, especially in the UK market, should be the dealer's own website.
Because the quality of their own website leads are better than from any other portal?
Yeah, I think you should have more presence there. There's certainly more information. You're contained within the dealer's branded environment. So all the information that you would ever want about that business should be on there, whether it's after sales, whether it's opening hours, whether it's used cars. Whereas a lot of the portals could be considered in some respects to be aggregators. So if we take Auto Trader as an example, you go to search results page, and although you're searching for a BMW 3 Series, there may be 200 vehicles on page one, and they're all from a number of different dealers with a limited number of calls to action. If you were in the dealer's own website and the traffic was being delivered to the website, for me, it should be more engaging and should deliver a better experience.
Yeah.
You should also, as a dealer, be responsible and in control of driving traffic to your own website through SEO, through pay-per-click campaigns, or whatever the case may be.
You don't have to be dependent from the portals, you mean?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But if you're a big dealer, that makes sense. But if you're a small dealership with one outlet, nobody is going to search for your website, right?
Yeah, so some of those dealers may be limited by the amount of inventory they've got. And of course, they may be limited by the amount of funds they've got to invest. So smaller dealers, without a doubt, may see more value in a classified portal than their own website. It does make sense,
And what about now the big shakers in the UK market as the dealers? Because you have a tremendous amount of big dealer groups, right? With billions of revenue. Who is the most advanced, most driven, most innovative online dealer in the UK, in your point of view?
So we rank and file the biggest groups in the UK by what we call the AM 100, which is the Automotive Management Top 100 Dealers. And I would say that anybody that is in the top 20 of those groups is somebody that's got to be really digitally savvy and capable of driving the right outcome from inquiries and leads that are generated. In the top 5, you could probably pretty much take any of the top 5 as being market leading in terms of their approach and the investment they're making. Of the top 5, without a doubt, you'd be looking at Sytner, you'd be looking at Lookers PLC, and also Virtue, of course. All of those businesses have got a very, very strategic approach and a very, very great approach to engaging with the consumer in the way they want to engage with their business and making sure that they get to the customer quickly and deliver a good experience.
But what about the business? Let's talk about your business. You are, as me, a reseller of the Calldrip system in your markets, but you have also your own virtual outbound BDC, right? Which value do you bring to your dealers, your clients from your BDC?
So our BDC operates 7 days a week. We bring 85 hours of coverage a week. So we provide a service which is what we call out of hours, and we also provide out of hours and bounce. So out of hours provides a service where we can handle inquiries, make appointments, make timed callbacks, deliver the right service to the person that's inquiring, and we can do that before the dealer opens in the morning. We can do it after hours in the evening up until, say, 9:30. But also we operate a bounce service, which means that if the inquiry goes into the dealer and isn't picked up or isn't responded to within a period of time, it would bounce to our facility, and our agents would then be able to handle the inquiry and look after the customer's needs.
What is a normal time to pick up? What is your escalation time? Is that 5 minutes, or in some OEM programs here in Holland after six hours?
Okay, yeah, well, It varies on people's view on what the best or the right time is. Typically speaking, if we look at one of our best performers, best in class, we were looking before we did this podcast, Paul, at one of our customers' performances, and they had something like a 98 or a 99% attempted connection rate from first inquiry and a 92% actual connection rate with a consumer in under 30 seconds from a digital inquiry to responding on the telephone. Now, what we would do is we would look to be able to engage with that consumer using Calldrip technology by ringing for 20 seconds into the business at first attempt. If that isn't picked up, then we would spin that call round and try and connect
24 seconds.
The phone would ring in the business for 20 seconds.
And then you are coming in the flow.
Well, we would then retry the showroom again after a minute.
Yeah.
And then we would retry again after 2 minutes.
And when you are coming along?
If it isn't picked up at that point, it would bounce straight to the BDC.
So after 2.5 minutes?
Correct. If the dealer is closed and it's the out-of-hours service, it will go to us immediately. And our average pickup time is between 18 and 25 seconds.
So we saw the figures, and it was an attempted rate of 98%, but a response time of less than 30 seconds on average.
Correct.
So most of them are 17, 18, 19, 20 seconds, right? Because otherwise you are not capable of 29 seconds. So what is the engagement level from the consumers? Do you have more wow calls within a minute, in 2 minutes? Is there a correlation as well, like we have here in Holland?
Lef, het lead management systeem van You Name It. Waarbij al uw leads in één systeem kunnen worden opgevolgd, helpt u op weg van lead naar deal. Lef is vernieuwend, verrassend en compleet. Door haar koppelingen met vele automotive leadbronnen en het eenvoudig management dashboard heeft u real-time inzicht in uw volledige leadproces. Uw leadproces volledig onder controle? Kijk dan op datislefhebben.nl. Steeds meer collega's gebruiken Used Car Controller. Taxeren, calculeren, publiceren of auto's verhandelen met je persoonlijke handelsplatform. Met 1 abonnement geeft Used Car Controller je controle over alle kritische gebruikte autoprocessen. Zo maakt Used Car Controller jou tot de beste in je vak.
Yeah, for sure, there is a significant correlation. What's interesting about those statistics is there is a significant number of first-time connections. Those first-time connections are high in volume because the consumer is in what we call the now moment. They're in that point of heightened interest. They've got shopping on their mind for a car, and we're engaging almost immediately. So we're in this window where quite often the consumer is able to take the call. So we have a significant high volume of first-time connections where we actually speak to the consumer, which, without a shadow of a doubt, if you're doing that in, say, 29 seconds, that's going to be an unbelievable guest experience and is going to blow the customer away.
Yeah.
We believe that kind of experience in that time span is the closest emotional engagement you can get to a digital inquiry. Digital inquiries are still considered today by a lot of people to be quite cold by virtue of how they arrive with you and by virtue of the fact that they're driven by somebody behind a keyboard. If you're able to engage with that customer on the phone in 29 seconds and have a really warm open and look to make a new friend, without a doubt you will create that wow factor as you referred to before, Paul, and you will blow them away.
But you said something very important in our pre-discussion before the podcast about, because if you make the connection very fast and you make an appointment, if there's a callback or real appointment in the shop, you're taking them off the market.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, with that speed of response, we're able to stop the clock.
Yeah.
The second thing,
stop the clock from the OEM, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. The next thing we're able to do is we're looking to make a friend. We've already excited somebody and built empathy and trust right at the beginning of the call by engaging in literally seconds. So if we take credit for that speed of response, without a shadow of a doubt, if we've got the right approach thereafter And of course, it's our job to help them with that approach and to coach and train and mentor our customers in handling the calls and taking credit for them. If that simple approach is done, without a doubt, you will take the customer out of the market. If it's a timed callback or if it's a timed appointment, without a doubt, both of those actions will for sure take the customer out of the market.
And what is your experience then? Because I saw that you had a 46% conversion rate to appointments from thousands of leads, and that's only the first conversation you have. If you hit a voicemail and you have to call back the second time, the third time, and you make then an appointment, then your appointment ratio will be higher. How many of the people are actually coming in? What's the appointment show in the UK market?
Yeah, it's a great point. We generally see that from a timed appointment, you will see around about a 70% show rate. So you'll have 30% of people that perhaps haven't made it. When we look back through those people and we look at the reasons why they haven't showed, we look back at our data, we listen back to the call, we see that an appointment was made. Quite often there may be something that's come up in the consumer's life or that's been interrupted and those things can't be helped. Or alternatively, what we would like is to see that the dealer would make a nice warm telephone call the day before.
To confirm.
Just to confirm and say, really looking forward to seeing you come in on Saturday. Yeah. We know that you're due to come in at 2:00. I'm just confirming that everything is fine and you'll be there.
So in your opinion, it's not necessary to confirm the appointment to have a great experience, but it's always helpful. It is not mandatory.
I wouldn't say it was mandatory. However, what I would say is it absolutely leaves nothing to chance. No. If you're going to make that courtesy follow-up to confirm, it absolutely leaves you with the best possible opportunity. And where we see dealers that are making those courtesy calls to confirm, we're seeing that the show-up rates can be as high as 85, 88% as opposed to 70. But 70, let's be honest, 70 is still good.
It's still 10% above the average benchmark of the 60% rule, right?
Yeah.
So 70% I will take my signature every day, all day, for a 70% conversion on showing. But the point I will make, or I will ask to you, when you ask the salesperson to confirm a firm appointment, right? Because you're making an appointment on Saturday, 11 o'clock, and you don't care about the diary of the consumer or the consumer, of course, but about the salespeople.
Yeah.
You make the appointment. Is there a chance that they are going to pre-qualify the appointment again when they confirm the appointment? They will ask about the trade-in and about what do you expect to get back from the car, and people are saying 5,000. Oh no, I'm thinking about 3. Don't bother to come in. Is that also the case in the UK, or not that black and white?
Well, there are people that do that, of course. I would say that I would question if they were in the right job.
No,
but it does happen. What I would say to you is that as part of the process and part of the work that we do with our customers and the dealers in question is we coach them on the best way to handle that confirmation appointment, and to coach them and train them to make them understand that qualification has already been done. The appointment has been set. The customer is looking forward to coming in.
Yep.
We all believe that there is nothing more valuable than a consumer that is sat in your showroom drinking a nice hot warm cup of coffee, looking at the vehicle they're interested in buying. Yeah. That's the best possible opportunity you will ever have of converting that customer. Yeah. So anything that they're going to do on the call is either going to unravel the good work that's already been done, or potentially confuse the customer.
Yeah.
So
because sometimes you don't want to confirm the appointment with some salespeople.
Agreed. Yeah, I guess it depends on what their approach is and why they're ringing.
Because if the people are coming in, they think it's actually a normal walk-in, and they have a better chance to convert that one. And they think after that, oh, that was a real appointment from the internet department, for example, then they screw up a qualified lead.
You're absolutely right. And what's interesting about that, and it's just actually jogged my memory as to a request we had from a previous customer who actually asked us if we would do the follow-up confirmation calls.
Yeah.
So we made the appointment for the dealer in the first place.
Yeah.
And then they asked us to do the confirmation calls to make sure that they were handled exactly how they should be handled, rather than having their own staff potentially ringing up and talking the customer out of coming in. A bit like profit prevention officers.
No, but that's happened so lot because they don't want to waste their time as a salespeople, right?
Yeah.
Their time instead of my time as a boss. But that's an whole other topic. What about you helped a lot of dealers with Calldrip and to have a better engagement, better appointment rate. What can you tell us about the 3, 4, 5 things where a dealer should be aware of before they implement it and Calldrip to make it successful?
Well, first and foremost, you've got to get buy-in from the people that are going to be using the tool. Mm-hmm. So what's important is that the rollout is committed to by all of the staff, the sales execs and the sales management team. That's absolutely for sure.
Yeah.
And what I'm talking about there is for them to have an understanding, not necessarily about all of the metrics and the analytics and insight into the tool, but about how to handle the call, what phone is going to ring when, and how to approach the call. Next, and probably the most important, if it's going into a showroom environment and the calls are being handled by the execs, is to make sure they take credit for speed of response. Make sure that they sell themselves and they sell the business that they're working for.
There's only in computer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we even have a number of customers that will say, when the customer is blown away and we get this this wow factor, as we call it, the salesman will say, "Oh yeah, we've got this really great, amazing technology." What it does, right, is first of all it rings me, and then it makes an announcement about who you are, and they're going on for 20, 30 seconds talking to the consumer.
About the tool.
About how the tool has completely ruined the theatre around the whole sales presentation and the quality of the individual that they've got on the end of the telephone. So, first of all, take credit for the speed of response. Sell yourself as an individual. You know, if the consumer wants to buy from somebody who's reliable as a person and buy from a reliable organisation, sell yourself as an individual and sell the business that you're working for. Promote the values in that business. If you're looking, let's say you're looking on Auto Scout, for example, for a 3 Series BMW, and you've got 75 on page 1. They're all the same colour, they're all similar mileage, they're all a similar age, and they're all, give or take, €2,000 priced somewhere the same. The only real differentiator you've got is the way in which the lead has been handled, and the experience and the guest experience you get from the person that's handling that inquiry. So you've got to sell yourself and your business to enable that customer to buy from you.
Because at the end, every sale is the same, right? They have to trust you, the company, and they have to like the product. And if that's the case, you have a chance to sell it, right?
Absolutely, 100%. So we really, really double down on absolute basics, and it may sound basic to a lot of people. Skills. It may sound basic to people that are listening to this, but it really is as simple as that. And I'm also very conscious of the fact that from an OEM perspective, or if you're working for a super group with a number of sites nationally, there may be a number of hoops you've got to jump through on those calls. There may be a number of KPIs that you've got to hit when you're guiding the customer through it, and I appreciate the importance for those. Some of them may be around compliance and data protection, and I totally get that and respect it, but ultimately you've got to remember on that call that you want to make a friend with somebody. You want to take credit for the efficiency and speed of the connection, and make a friend and book the appointment and encourage them to come and buy from your business and the values in it. Fine, understand ticking the box and jumping through hoops, but also don't lose sight of the fact that you've got a human being on the end of the phone who's highly engaged, who's just submitted an inquiry and is interested in the vehicle that you've got for sale.
You also do business with Calldrip with some OEMs. What is the advantage for an OEM to work with the system?
The real advantages for an OEM are, there's a number of things, to be honest. The most obvious one, which is the outcome goal, is to improve the performance of the entire network. Mm-hmm. So to raise the bar of everybody. Secondly, it gives absolute transparency, insight, and crystal clear analytics across a whole network. So if we take in the UK one of our OEM relationships, where we'll be in, say, across 150 stores nationwide, it's very, very easy on a weekly basis to understand visibility around connection rates, call durations, which calls have gone to voicemail, who's left a voicemail, who hasn't, how many times we have to ring in order to get an engagement with somebody, and then ultimately through the transcribing and the call scoring, who's answering the phone the most, who's making the most appointments. And with that kind of focus and that kind of feedback and a level of coaching from us and from the area management team, you find that you can significantly move the needle in terms of conversions on sales appointment set ratio and on closed deals.
So it makes the visibility of the leads and the lead performance way better for an OEM standpoint.
Absolutely, 100%.
Allistair, final question. If somebody who is listening to the podcast wants to know more about the UK market, about the services you bring, how do we can get hold of you?
So if you're in the UK and you want to know more about our services and what we can do for you, go to calldrip.com and you can either go to the Contact Us section, or alternatively, you'll see a speech bubble anywhere on any page of the Calldrip website. Click the button and submit a ticket asking for us to contact you, and we'll react to you Calldrip fast, as we say. Failing that, if you're in the Netherlands and you're interested in understanding more about our insights, then obviously the best thing to do is call Paul, and he'll provide you with his insights and experiences from the work we've learned together. Thank you.
Allistair, thank you. Thank you very much for this conversation we have, and for your visit, and for your continuous partnership we have to make the online automotive even better. Volgende week weer een nieuwe aflevering van onze podcast. Vind je deze podcast leuk en wil je meer mensen laten weten hoe ze moeten luisteren? Deel deze podcast dan actief via iTunes, Spotify of Stitcher. Tot volgende week voor een nieuwe aflevering van onze podcast om de online automotive beter te maken. Dankjewel.
Bedankt voor het luisteren. De podcast van Paul de Vries is te beluisteren op onder andere iTunes, Spotify en Soundcloud. Abonneer nu direct, zodat u geen aflevering mist. De online automotive beter maken doet Paul de Vries met de volgende partners: Marktplaats, tweedehands.be, you name it, Calldrip, Used Car Controller en Active Lease.